Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme.
Theravada Jatanga Tuta Kasa Jersey Laglan Sumbari Tindita Jersey Laglan Sia the Katan Konshu Jatan Laglan Sia the Kandri Sevina Tene Cindy Ke Kalanga Tene Jersey Laglan Sia the Karis Huvina Tene Cindilla Yang Chik Ko Chik Matun Doba Yang Yuatalan draw Matovia Tene Chik Menduba Tayang Tene Ko Young de one Roji Young Tindi Indu Ching Zambaling Gigana Tene Nika challenging Momoji Yunguyorwa or challenge to Sola Fest and challenge Donne Chiak Tabjik Tong Tigana Yike Tartu Tene Dent Devatambas Yang Sanji Compound Tubiaki Tindiki Chitola Tene Jersey which told me some bouquet Tendima Tamando Derhawa Tindiki is.
So we're continuing with these wonderful instructions on the 37 Bodhisattva practices. And the word in Tibetan for practices here is Laglen. And what this term, the practices or activities is referring to. So in this life, there are many situations that we are confronted with. There are many things that come to us that are undesirable. There are many things that we wish to accomplish or achieve that we are unable to. In any case, there are many sort of unpleasant and unfavorable situations that we continually confront in life. There are many challenges in this world. But in relation to those challenges, then we have to confront them. We have to confront or face those challenges to the best of our ability and to skillfully relate with them in a way that creates causes that become the favorable causes that lead to the final result of liberation and the unchanging happiness of awakening. And so this is what the Bodhisattva Ngulchu Togme Zangbo has imparted to us through these 37 Bodhisattva practices. Is they are instructions, profound instructions for taking all sorts of circumstances onto the path in a way that skillfully creates the causes for temporary and ultimate happiness.
Tinta Katanga to the current rules on Baresena, Tini Chanjuk Sam, Tini Chanjuk Sam, Tini Tongdam Chanjuk Sam down, Tini Gunzop Chanjuk Sam down, Gunzop Tian, Tini Juba Chanjuk Sam down, Tini Mumba Chanjuk Sam, or that Tini Chanjuk Sam, Tini Kandiji Gongo Bate, Husing is.
So we left off last week discussing bodhicitta. So we mentioned the different classifications of bodhicitta, the ultimate bodhicitta, the relative bodhicitta, and the ultimate bodhicitta. And then within the relative bodhicitta, there are the categories of the aspiration bodhicitta and application bodhicitta. And so that is where we left off.
That thing, not so cups habala. Sinta jetop, sunda, jetop jonsu, jetop say the calabu lavina. Not a namjube, Chigoa, Jikandina, native. 강에 뭐지 키운 거예요. 걔 강에 들어라. 근데 동네 간데스 치고 봐.
Today, we get into the discussion of the post meditation, and so again, as there are
post meditation
so the word in Tibetan is jito, which sometimes is translated as a post meditation, but really what we're referring to here are essentially all of the, what is occurring in our life when we're not actually doing, engaged in, say, formal sitting or, formal practice, but actually, sort of the period that accompanies, that is accompanied by all sorts of activities. And so in the world, we, again, there are many challenges, many difficulties that we face. And so then the instruction is how to then take those difficult circumstances, how to relate with them as practice and bring them onto the path. Oh, so chuba
lam chu chu chun do yo sa le thang ka de cholo ka chun do ni be tan dan do wi na da the wa ni tho yi tang ja la ma chi mo tho do na kan de chi go gre
oh okay
tene chen zo bola na kan de chi go gre ra na dung gu na kan de chi go gre se wa ta tene ki
ni am sholo ka chu yo de sholo ka chu ni de chu ni shin san ni ma. And so actually there are 10 verses here that deal with this,
dealing the problems.
That deal with the problems in ordinary life. And so it begins with verse number 12.
Tene Sudan do chen wang ke da ke no tam chi cho kam cho de yo na yang
So verse number 12 says, even if driven by great desire, others steal all my wealth or have it stolen, dedicating to them my body, resources, and 3 times virtues is the Bodhisattva's practice.
Tene ta jik yanan doba chimbo yonken, wang chimbo yonken, tende ke tene rang la yang jik nyepa kanyang mewa, pa jik peshan do tigo ya kanyang mewa, tende je ke tene karang osu yonne, rang jutsama chodo yonne re, yang mena mejik lepe, tang chi wata chorang pagi jutsama kisho se jik. Yunguyorwa, Tenichi, Kesi Tenichi, Chombi, Azon. Chombi, that Teje, Controlaya, Sabla, Tene, Chosma, Tama, Teatan, Teta Mazibiti, J. Nieki Luton, Lonchu Karina, called top shows, called Gava Karina, called top shows, a dedication, Chigris.
So in any case here, the instruction is that even if we lose all of our wealth, our money and possessions due to the, deceit or the desire of others, or even if others who motivated by desire steal all of our wealth and possessions. Either they steal it directly, they take it from us by force, or they do it sort of stealthily or sneakily through deceit, behind our back, or send somebody to, or put somebody else to the task of taking all of our wealth and possessions, then the instruction here is, even if this occurs and one loses everything, in the place of becoming, instead of becoming angry, to instead freely relinquish, to have the attitude of go ahead and take it. And to dedicate all of one's wealth, possessions, and even all of one's virtues accumulated in the 3 times, is the Bodhisattva's practice.
지금은 증야 탑신다 오다 되네 다 탑 가리우나 치네 된다 공개 못하다 초송 세다 지 콘도다 해당 섬님의 저기 라이 라운이어레스 릴로요 마리스트.
So this is, of course, not at all easy.
Maybe that's all, maybe 10, that's not easy. But yeah.
All these 10 are particularly challenging. So, just think about it in general. Say you bought a brand new car and, you're enjoying your new car and somebody steals your brand new car. Then chances are, we're going to get really furious, and we're going to think, I'm going to get that person back. I'm going to, put them in jail. I'm going to make sure I get my car back. And, this is sort of the kind of common reaction to something like that. So generally speaking, we would, in such a situation, we would feel extremely angry, and we would, take any necessary measures to get our brand new car back, or at least to get, the money back.
that today that tilang at nyamlechi so that nyamlewa nyamlechi adla anga to reason take tone tang the reason la kat benefit kat painful yo the some tang yo wa benanga to da motan da chi kuma short so na ri yamana no so chapa do je cho so mi na da ti mota short cha wa re mota cho cha wa re 티 토라랑게 지금 증야라고다 양면에 티 라야게 탑신다고다 다 텐데지 치비나더니 지 코카스나 모타 쇼트사바 레라 티 토라 다동양 등에 배네 러버 추버지 레봉고요와 배나다 배나 아메리칸도 차샤비나 레라 오요 말이 니 모타 코마 쇼트스라나 스지 딱 말바 고르멘 폴리스도 오야야 니 따고라 그래 이나야 공수 investigation 제기 말해. 다 대동 아메리카 다 쇼러와. 제가 현반도 오이나 되네. 오니 모터 코마 쇼송 차파제 키송 따나 따로 지라나. 지 police 노지 기동이나. police 오야야 냈다고 스타나다메 스타추 베샤들이지 키쇼스타 베샤들이지 키고가 모터 라그레스. 오니 키운 거라고 그랬네. 다 베샤 뭐지 베샤 뭐지 쇼는 모터 키야요 말기 모터 라그도 스타나 통도 소다 뒤소는 없고 지 간이지 티음비까라 티강라 가서 들리지게 흉침보게 차과단 점바티나 단기 계직 모타 쇼와 티기 짜라게 등일에 되는 다반도지 연구요. 근데 다 모타 쇼 사와래. 꾸메키나 꾸메키 잡베키나 잡베키. 근데 그게 다 데그레스타. 삼네 고추 지위나 네캅 랭키 스타 동아르츠 그래. 까토부요. 제들이. 지금은 이유다 제들이.
So, what is the benefit of practicing in this way? So if, for instance, we lose something very, we have a lot of attachment to, or that are very dear to us, like our new car, and whether it was lost or destroyed, or if somebody stole it. If we can do what we can to get our car back, but in some cases, even in trying to do many do many things to get this car back, still sometimes it simply is that the situation has already occurred and there is no reversing it. And so to be completely distraught about getting the car back actually only doubles or triples our suffering, our distress. And so, for instance, maybe it's he's not sure how easy it is, to get the police to, if you go to the police and your car has been stolen, and you tell them, please this car was stolen and I have to get it back. They might be able to retrieve it for you, to find the stolen car. But it also might not be a really, high. But probably it might not be so easy, because it's not like somebody was killed. It's not in the grand scheme of crimes, it's not as such a heavy crime. And so given the time and the resources, the police might not actually be able to find your car. And in America, it's better. There's a better chance you might get whatever stolen objects back. But in some countries, if you go to the police and you say, my brand new car was stolen, I have to get it back, and then the police will say, we'll get it for you, don't worry, we'll find it, but we're going to need some money. So they'll actually end up asking for money, and then they'll continue to say that they'll find it, but then they don't. And then by the end of it, of course, they don't really look very hard at all. And so then in the end, you've lost your car, and you've also given a whole bunch of money to the police who haven't actually found the car for you. And so it just ends up being of no real benefit.
What a thing do that young photo or your money. Tea the tanga to Yamlechi with near Kala, some young body down what a sure Nimutka. That moment, no, Latin, dedication to the Chi Havina, Timiko, Tambote, Dungatagana, Chito. Yes.
And so all of the just to, because I that didn't sorry money, all of the efforts to try to get back your car, whatever it is, really dwelling on the fact that it has been taken or lost, just puts greater and greater suffering on top of suffering. So again, it just doubles or triples your distress. On the other hand, if you lose something, some valuable object, or someone has stolen something from you, and then the moment that you recognize that it has been lost, the moment you recognize that it has been taken, and that very moment to mentally dedicate that object, to the moment that you find out your car has been stolen, to make a sincere dedication from your heart in that very moment will greatly diminish your own suffering in this situation.
Dedication chia the Karchigulana. Oh, that then Nietzschewa Momala, Kota, Nietzschewa Toyres, Nietzschewa laying in Basayres. Tindita, Tring Yabuchons, Stani, late par chansons, that late chansons and dedications at Zoterwa, what I pay, 당에 레 창쇼스 니기 레당 호랑게 레당 다 힘이 레자당 티 엘테네 베 레드 창쇼스 그가 나한테 데디케이션 받아고 잘라 100% 터버리스로 코라코 야도 말이 그 야비키 레 마서치 있다 꼭 잘라 코라 톱쇼 선베키 때문에 로지 지비나 로지비나 때문에 지 아주 그 원에 당내 있고 지 능에 그 주당 기와데 들이 장토 보여레스
So the way in which we can practice dedicating like this is that, say, for instance, somebody steals something very valuable from us, like this car, this brand new car, and there's no way that this would have happened had there not been some sort of connection from the past with the individual who stole it from us. So there's some karmic connection there. There's some karmic debt that we have with that person. If there weren't some connection, then there's no way that this would have happened. And so the fact that there's something such as this occurring now is evidence of a prior connection from the past, and how we deal with it in the present circumstance will determine the nature of the connection that we will have with that individual going forward. And so if in that experience of being stolen from, we have the reaction of dedicating, all of our mentally dedicating and relinquishing these possessions to that person, then if we mentally reflect, thinking, the reason why this has happened is because certainly I have created the karma for this to occur. In former lives, I must have done something to harm this person who is now stealing from me. Surely I have stolen from them, or I have wronged them in some way. Otherwise, this simply wouldn't happen. And so then recognizing that, accepting that, and then having the aspiration, may this karmic debt of mine be purified through having this circumstance of being stolen from, then that is essentially what is happening. It is purifying whatever karmic debt it is that you hold. And so to think, may they receive, fully receive the object, and fully dedicating it to them, fully relinquishing your possessions and handing them over to this person who has stolen them, and also wishing them the very best, wishing them happiness and good fortune, then really has such an amazing power of purification of the negative deed that was accrued in the past and former lives.
So yeah, also this kind of situation is I have experienced exactly my life. So like during the cultural revelation, so like my family basically really wealthy. We have lot of possessions like outside like hundreds, heaps, goat, yaks, and also like inside in the furniture, like really is like I don't know, hundreds generations they collect their gold, silver, and the precious like jewels, so on. So yeah, of course, then there's never ever like shortages of food. But so this, during the Cultural Revolution, the one they took everything. So same thing exactly. We did done anything, our life, so just they took everything, animals, and inside positions.
All of their possessions, like in the home, really everything that they had.
So that, I think that day, so I remember is so we usually in the dinner, together. So dinner together, and also after.
Usually the family would have, when they would gather together for dinner.
And after I finish the dinner, we do some chanting, some prayers.
They would do prayers and chanting after the dinner.
All right. So then, so that day, so we, even though, like, maybe there's not enough dinner, just one day gone. So completely empty. What is empty room, empty
pantry?
Right, so empty, completely, totally empty, don't have anything. So that time is, of course, my sisters in particular, and mom is, yeah, of course we said, and there's not only one day, so those things never come back, we know. And also, yeah, of course, how, sustain, how we living, future, or living always, how do tomorrow, so that time is, my uncle, and so they talking about that night. So then they said, okay, so they told to family, so we now time to practice. And he saying, we time to be happy. So they said, okay, right now, if your inner state is not happy, so then very difficult to us, because external is very bad situation,
So if we don't have, if we're not really like secure in our sense of inner strength and happiness within, then we're really sort of in trouble, or we'll really have difficulty, because the outer circumstances are so particularly bad.
Mm-hmm. So actually we did that. So then, really not much pay attention what they took, So do we dedicate? Okay, so we did something, past karma or something, we did things, of course. So now just took. So okay, so we sort of dedicate, we, all the animals or all the positions, so they get something, other people too, so other people here. So sort of like dedicate, okay. So, and that moment is, the one hand I say it's very difficult situation, but also one hand is, understand, okay, just there people are kind of family, like joking or laughing, and just not completely forget, of course, but also not really overwhelmed by
overwhelmed.
Suffering. So that is really, so this kind of our practice in they're really powerful, Otherwise, so who knows, sometimes circumstances really bad we can get, So, and also one time I remember Dalai Lama said, so he said our Tibetan situation is, he said it is like, hell, or it is like prison. So he said, if we are not like Dharma practice, probably, he said, all the Tibetan people maybe mostly become, them sorcered, right? say what?
They would commit
Or just
suicide.
commit suicide, or just become crazy. But he said this: no one did that, and maybe not 100%, but and not like become crazy, you know. So that's why they practice Dharma.
The reason why is because of their the strength of their Dharma practice.
Right. So that is actually really. So also this reality, you know. So we cannot stop external problems. Like for example, right now, the coronavirus. The 100% we don't want, but the entire, you know, Earth, you know, they try to, you know, whatever this, rid of this virus, or but
the whole world is trying to get rid of the virus.
But we cannot, you know, so that's very difficult. External things. Also, I said this external problem. We try to stop problem, but that's impossible. But we can build our strength, so maybe no need to rely on the external, you know, things. So that's why we said practice. Also, or that in the end, that jatanga so the error. That so preparation, prepare for challenge condition be not. One day, no matter how difficult the challenge it is, face challenge it no matter what it is. The penetration jigmejeke north in Toson we not in Jingas Gabalamo, Petrovachi took this.
So in general, one aspect of our practice, or what occurs through practice, is that we prepare. We are really mainly, it becomes like preparation, so that when really truly intense or great challenges occur, that no matter how difficult those challenges may be, that we will be able to face them. We will be able to confront them in such a skillful way that we actually bring them onto the path of practice. So if all of our, everything we have, for instance, is stolen, all of our wealth and possessions are stolen or taken from us, that due to the strength of our practice, we will be able to let them go. We will be able to actually dedicate to them to you know, those who have taken our wealth.
Mm-hmm. So I think so. That's one, and the next one is Tene da la nipa jungzi mi xin de kanda da ken go ju chi na ningje wang ki tie de kwa da la lemba je se la ins.
So then the next line is, even if others cut off my head when I haven't done the slightest thing wrong, taking upon myself their misdeeds through the power of compassion is the Bodhisattva's practice. And we might all have different versions, like different translations here. So.
Da tin du te da. Yang da la ni pa jungzi mi xin de, te me je ka se gi yona. Da me te le di pa mi yong sho. Ko me zine di pa yong gro ba. Ma tin du da di pa mi yong sho se ji ram ma xin wo la ya. Mo lam ja ga te ke chi bo de.
So even So even if, you know, one is completely not at fault, and yet someone or others harm one, even to the extent of taking one's life, you know, even to the extent of cutting off one's head, as it says here, and to have in one's heart, or one's heart and mind, the aspiration, may they not experience the suffering of the negativity of their deeds. So may they not, may the suffering of their negativity not ripen upon them. To have that kind of altruistic aspiration, even in such an extreme situation, is the Bodhisattva's practice.
Right. So we are, the ordinarily is okay. We can very difficult this practice. This one. So we are ordinarily, even though not cut our head, but even though didn't punch.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody said like one word, or you said ugly, or so how we angry, why he said that. So why did just kind of how we difficult, we get suffering,
Mm-hmm.
Even though nobody just didn't do anything like physically, but like even though verbally something said, so that's
even verbally, just
right.
Somebody says something to us.
Says something, we just kind of how we get suffering. So Dharma practice like really interesting, So returning the mind. Okay, I said not really cannot read of the outside things.
We can't get rid of external things necessarily.
Right. Maybe one day somebody punch us. Maybe one day somebody killed us. Who knows? We know guarantee not killed from others.
There's no guarantee that we won't be killed by others.
Right. So this we have gain or this that So everybody has to gain. But so we really focus in build up inner strength. Okay, first we start, learning or practice is, somebody said to you bad things. Maybe first time, very angry, why he said that, why I didn't do anything, why. But then we just practice again. Maybe one day, whatever, no matter they say bad things, maybe you didn't get suffering. So that is progress.
That's progress.
Right? And then the second step is maybe somebody punch you, push you, how we angry, He abusing me physically, right? So how get we suffering? But we practice again, maybe they want somebody to beat us.
Even if somebody beats us up.
Maybe okay, just luckily I didn't kill me, good, so that's okay. So these kind of slowly build up. And then eventually, or somebody killed us, maybe there's no angry. So the Bodhisattvas, I think Bodhisattva training, right? I think you heard before. So first the training, the Bodhisattva, we practice of generosity, right?
Practice generosity. Mm-hmm.
So first they cannot give to others.
So in the beginning, it's very hard even to just give something.
Like we said, yellow vegetable. Even
a yellow vegetable. Meaning kind of like green vegetables that have turned kind of yellow.
Right, so that basically not used.
like not even a very good vegetable is hard to give.
Right. But then they practice and practice. Then eventually they become, you give the organ. You're able to give the organ. Where
you're even able to give your own organs.
Right, so they're equal to yellow vegetable or your organ.
So there's no distinction between the yellow vegetable and the organ. You can give them both equally freely without grasping, without, right. With the same degree of, the giving intent.
Right, so that's possible. So also Dharma practice, why are we doing that, right? Why? Why is we don't want to really suffering. That's the reason.
We don't want to
Only
suffer.
reason we don't want to suffering. We don't want to long suffering or we short suffering.
Long-term or short-term
right.
suffering.
So then the practice and practice. So one day I say, It's maybe one day you give the organ, maybe no suffering. Or maybe one day you cut off our head, maybe no suffering. So they're completely free the suffering, no matter what is, or somebody chopped our head. I found happy, you know. Somebody punched me, I'm happy. So we get there, is, you know, take time, but we can, you know, absolutely we can. But also this long way to go. So, but also important is how, you know, understand is most important. So same thing, like also this one is also my experience too, you know, so like we killed, you know, culturally killed my grandfather and my uncle, you know, prison, and my father beaten and so on. So that's anywhere they happening, you know. So that's I said cannot, you know, escape. Even though like sometimes we really did bad things, but sometimes happens. You know, so.
So it's often, in fact, the case that even when somebody hasn't done anything wrong, still a misfortune, even, you know, as severe as like being killed, can happen. Even, you know, when there's no, you know, need, they haven't done anything wrong.
Right. And also, it's really important is if you really sincerely practice Dharma, okay, then the external difficulties, external, or we can say problems, is become like opportunity. A reality is all the problems and difficulties is actually really opportunity, you know.
Any difficulty, any misfortune or suffering is always an opportunity.
So like for example, if somebody make angry, there we the practice, you know, so everything is fine, you know. How we can generate it, love and compassion or strength.
When everything's fine, how can we really generate love, compassion, and inner strength?
Right. And then every time there is the problems, difficulties. And then the practitioner side is like basically is everything's opportunity. So also we have to learn it, you know. First maybe somebody, you know, I said before, you know, somebody bad things, maybe just no feeling, nothing, not like that, of course. But also one hand is like we kind of like for this opportunity, you know.
So it's not
auto testing too, you know, why not angry or not, you know. So there is actually we Dharma practitioners is no matter how like outside we sort of ordinarily this bad, you know, or difficulties or problems, like basically it's like negative things, like ordinarily or superficially look like, but those are actually Dharma practitioners. The reality is those are is not bad, you know. Those are is not really negative side. Basically, opposite, those are is like positive, you know, become positive. So we ordinarily thinking, you know, so I said, okay, everything's fine, or this is just my best friends, or I like these things that I have, these precious. So looks like this is, good things, all. But those are, or slowly, or the reality is, can become negative. Or become maybe non-virtue side.
They can become a cause of accumulating non-virtue.
So that might say interesting, okay? We learning a lot, but so these things we probably hear, we say, oh, that's impossible. How we cannot do that? Somebody killed me, this, or how I compassion, or somebody stealing me my things, how we did compassion, that's just, stupid. But really not stupid, okay? We ordinarily think, oh, stupid, but really this is really smart. Those people has deep wisdom how to make authentic happiness, how to get rid of the suffering, uprooting, or suffering of the way.
Mm-hmm. They have it's actually not stupid, but it's really actually an incredibly profound method to uproot the cause of suffering.
Mm-hmm. Oda tindu ta nga zo jetang tarsen na te zong le ta chu se ya de ko gomba ma yi khomba yi khomba long de nyo khomba yi ta khomdi jo gro wa khomdi jo gre khomdi jo ya te ne ta pa la bu yo wa ikar se na ji sanje khomba se ya da wo da nyam to pa se ya da wo da zo zo ji pe na cha sha wi na ji la ma ji ke ti nya da wo ji ta ya sanje ki ji ti nya da wo ji ta 양아지 거지 남네 봐 메리카노 거지 파우면 이거 말와 딘디인도 거지 라마 당 때네 담배 주 토베 제라 근데 랑크 트니 냠량치 고고와 냠량치니 냠량치가 티케고 누바데 니마치 그 랑크 주라 레방고요 yes.
So this is really, what the practice is. It's a path of training, of habituation. So as is always said, it's not so much meditation as it actually is habituation. So it's a process of becoming familiar. It's a process of habituating a certain tendency or mind way of being. So it isn't, that the Buddha, will give, that we'll receive some extraordinary realization and experience from the Buddha, or that the Lama will give us some great miraculous powers, that we will gain the ability to perform miracle feats and fly through the sky. But actually, the real miracle is what is gradually developed through consistent effort, through consistent practice. Over time, through practice, we develop power, the ability, and the inner strength to really practice in such a deep way as is described here.
제가 나지기 다상에다 내려 uprooting이라고 써. uprooting the country is lavina. 맞아 지 강연티 세야 돼. 지 동해 용세야 돼. 주된 해요. 당당 가서 친들 양이 봐 지미비나. 지원냐마. 근데 지유세. 와 김대지 인도 단다 대지 가서 강연티
강하다 다음에나 드네 제왕 제라 텐데나 그래서
말해 이나 단단가 저지 강예지 퇴기로와 강예 퇴야 되라 베나 다삼그로 냐 누보 강치요 말에 쳇들니 네가 강 싸요 말에 싸 메비나와 싸요 말에 싸나 지보 말에 키시 싸 메비나 대고 가서 제완데 지고 말와 제완데 지고 말에 되고 제와 장례데 바지 라요와 그 랑비 깔고 땡땡 나 좋게 레지 싸셔요 is 티인도 다 레트 코트 uprooting 창다 매장데 나도 accept 치던 말이 dedication 치던 말이 치 라레디오레스 계승가서 능이 냥이나 능이 가게면도 그네 배 항상 같이 능이 냥거래도 삼비비나 근데 파기 경험이 그 레트냐 레트 상마상 착 말이스 uprooting 차통 말 얘는 디 제셀라란 디나로 송반나 이지지 다 야보 총송 당연히 창송 Samji tene ko 100% dedication ji jihabina tene ngemele changro yes.
So how is it that uprooting occurs? So really, it is through accepting hardship and difficulty when it befalls us, when challenges occur. Instead of always resisting those or wanting them to be something different, being unable to accept them, to really recognize that they are karmic ripenings and to accept them and bring them onto the path of practice in a skillful way. We tend to think of things, as being we only really search for the causes of things in this present life, or we sometimes are really perplexed because we say, I haven't really, why is this happening? Why am I, are these challenges occurring for me? I haven't, I'm doing the best that I can. I haven't done anything wrong. But, it isn't just this life that we're talking about. There have been countless lives and countless causes that have been created. And so whatever the current circumstances, really are due to a lot of factors that are also, due to the karma that has been accumulated in any number of former lives. We have had countless lives in cyclic existence, and that is a certainty. So we have always, we have created the karmic causes. We have accumulated all sorts of karma, and that karma ripens in many forms, in our present ongoing experiences. Or the ongoing experiences of our present situation. And so when we don't accept, when we can't accept, and so therefore we don't relinquish and we don't dedicate, then we don't purify any of that karma. That's it, as long as there's resistance to accepting, then there's no way for purification to occur. And so when there are difficulties, when there are challenges, again, it's so important to accept by recognizing that this is karmic ripening, and then to skillfully use the situation to generate virtue through dedication and so forth.
동지 열어봐. 오케이, 동지 다 레리. 냐마 참바지 열어봐. 참바지 열에. 근데 달라 총바지 열에. 근데 총바지 니마지 파주 요동 고뉴. 네, 총바지 위빌라 열어 위로 파주 위카. 라송레스. 그 라송도 되네. 다 총바지 좋기 때문에 지 다 피드 카와 요레스네. 고 카사칼 제기 요레스. 대제비 까블라테네. 파주기 피드테네. 네, 그런 스포츠 계좌들이 단기디 참바돼서 참배 강바 여러 참바. 역시 케빈. TT라는 저기 노스라 여러와. 디인도테네. 아코 진다 티케테네. 테네 코다 참바텔라다. 고 작공도베. 그거 되니 세보 요사 말와. 나공도 되니 요사래. 테니 가나테 참바티 같이 열람나. 담에 현답 소자기 여러와. 다이가 로. tene tene the tombati oh pacho could be to ton yes. Can you see my cup? He said no. But then he just sort of like opened door, he see like kind of he cooking look like meat.
Okay, you're speaking English now. But that's okay.
Okay, that's why I can
Okay.
understand.
I know, but they didn't hear the rest of the story.
Okay.
But
tene te tombe kabla tene konso kansan yora o ko bet mala kudos ko pachu de se tene ko shazo lamte ko lamsan ko reporting do the corda local government reporting chi yorwa the reporting chi ne tene ko to loto madan dawato latin songsan ta yes.
So there's a story which many of you have already heard, but some maybe have not. So there, it's a story about what happened to one practitioner, one retreatant who was, practicing in retreat, a meditator practicing in retreat. So the story is that he was staying in a retreat sort of just above a village in a cave, in the mountainside. And there was one family in the village who had lost their calf. So they had, they had some cattle, and one of the younger calves had gone missing. And so the villager was, going to family to family, going to, door to door, farm to farm, asking, have you seen my calf? I've lost my calf. And he was, he described the appearance and the calf and so forth. And some villagers said, oh, I think we may have seen him kind of over in the direction of where that retreatant stays in retreat, over by the retreat cave on the mountainside. And so the villager went to where the retreatant was practicing, to his retreat area or cave, looking for the calf. And he asked him, he said, have you seen this calf of mine? And the retreatant responded, no, I haven't seen him anywhere. But it was sort of dark, and in the entryway of his cave, he could sort of see inside that there was something cooking, that the retreatant was cooking something. What the retreatant was actually cooking was he was actually dyeing his robes. So he was newly dyeing his dharma robes or his skirt, and it was a kind of deep red color. So what it looked to the villager like was blood, like he had butchered the calf and was cooking it. And so he became furious and thought, this retreatant is just completely, he's a liar and he's a thief and he's stolen my calf and now he's cooking it and eating it. So he went to the local, the officials or the authorities and told them what had happened. And they also, were outraged. And so the result was that the retreatant was sentenced to prison for 6 years.
Or 6 months.
Oh, 6 months. Sorry, better than 6 years, yeah.
Oh, ta di kandi chungbare lamtene tamadi ta family tene ko ji jela tene ina ko lamsang tetela gudo ko lese ya di ko lamsang tene lamsang nima jegni jetene ko pachu wi to wa ra yorwa to yoris te to ba te kana logo ri da ya jo ko ta te gon ta so ri tene tinge te ko pachu se me do mi ke ra so la ko logo leader 6 months forget chas no yorwa.
So what happened was that the family who had lost their calf, shortly after all this, ended up finding their calf, only about 3 or 4 days later. And so then feeling, pretty, ashamed and regretful, then the villager went to the local leader and said, oh, I really made a mistake. Actually, the retreatant didn't kill the calf, and we were able to find the calf after all. And the local leader, accepted this, but then he was very busy with many things to do, and he actually completely forgot about it. So he forgot to actually release the prisoner.
Tene tama dene 6 month jail tene koran khako tene koran yang tene ko pe ta ni ke the family to that the pachimbo sa song sta the tonda je mi jo ta ni me ge wa the pachimbo sa song tene indi ta tene ni chora yang tene ji ge ze la khala de ya ina de sha chi shue ya ina de tendo chi de du tende ya shu yo is.
And so then once the prison sentence was up and he was released 6 months later, and then the family realized what had happened, once he was released, and they felt really terrible and said, apologized to the retreatant and told him, we have made a huge mistake. Really, we have accumulated so much non-virtue through this misunderstanding, and we want to do everything we can to make it up to you. Please let us, do support you, for for the rest of your life. Let us, we'll provide all your food for you. Anything that you need, we will give to you. We want to do everything that we can, to repair this terrible wrong that we have done to you.
Tene shatene so de ju chen tela mari ngone thank you ta chona pe ka di chen bores jitanga ta nyamle pe ma bo chi bores ngarang ke ji ta jawa tsra mo bola sa sha ki bi ko mo bo chang yo res yin na yang ko unfortunately ndo je nge pe bi ko sa chen bo ji sa yo res tinga chang yo ma res bi ko sa chen bo de kan de la vi na ta ni jawa ngoma shigla tene na koma res koma khora ke tene phaju phiu je koma ja tene te koma ja ne tene ko sha roban ro je tene ara something can yorwa tene je tene kambe thili yo kambe thili sha yorwa ko son te sha de ta ko phaju phiu de tan ken de le long de tene ko samkhang za la sha su ni ko roba yo wan ro tong de tene ke ara de tene nima tho chung ko chung khang da is Wata ti le tinga ta chang yo ma des. Tini ta teni chorang ka di le tene ta ni le chang sa chang ba des. Chorang ka di chi ta ni mong ba la chorang ka chi ko na hya chi shu is. Chorang lo ba ka di chi ko ni chorang chi is la des.
So the retreatant responded saying, no, actually, you have been incredibly kind to me. This has actually been an extraordinary act of kindness on your part, and actually it is the other way around. I am eternally indebted to you, because through all of the practice I have done throughout my life, I have purified a lot of karmic obscurations and negativity, but there was a really strong karmic obscuration that I had not been able to purify until now. In a former life, I was a thief, and I did indeed steal somebody's cow. And I stole this cow, and then once I had enjoyed it, cooked it and eaten it for myself, I threw the bones, or I disposed of the bones near the meditation place, or the cave of a great arhat. So I threw the bones, around the retreat dwelling of an arhat. And so that Arhat became unjustly accused of the crime that I had committed and was sentenced to prison for 6 days. He went to prison for 6 days. And so actually you have now caused me to purify this really great negativity. So really you have done, you know, this has actually been such a great act of kindness to me on your part. And so in the future, actually, I wish to serve you however I can, to, you know, whatever you need, please, I want to be able to help you. And so really, I'm just eternally indebted to you and so grateful for your kindness.
我的店里，他做开始呢，我自己谈的空虚呢，也是估计干业特别高了，我干业的就什么当起，干业的理解不到，读过的马上来去，干业娘啥了哇，干业读过的什么，干业娘啥了的，读过马的什么，干业娘啥了，店里店开始过是呢，那干业国民都开始上边呢，个东西吃了读过的嘛，头，个干业的娘啥了，哦的，没着要嘛，店里。 다 개체적 가서는 강의 대 accept 직당 진이 대다 accept 라도 가르치고 요래라위나 오 다는 강의들이 최소 대다 때네 네킬레 사이드레스 나 지금 그 많이 봐 제가 나다 이렇게 예상에 빼면 뭐 여러 받는다 해당 영역만 가세요 차도 영역만 가세요 엘레멘트스로 대인들이 다 가리지 강의 요구에 나왔다. 들리지 네 개들이 레사하고다. 근데 나당 나도 그 레사하고. 저타도 이제 basically generalize 이제 지가 여러 뭐 상황 때문에 지요래 상황 해당 요래. 지도와 되는데 지금 뭔가 눈에 열어와. 대인들이 다 강의 가는 책이 딱 얘기 강의들이 드린 내기 레사하죠. 장르쇼 accept 제가 나이 나다 이렇게 레사하고다. 괜히 강의냐면 빌라변이 힘내기 레자 장르쇼 해야지. 뭐라고야 되지. 예스. 대개지를 레양 장로 거리다. 랑라 샘플 되게 연구해 봐. 맞아 캔사도와 니라인 봐. Dharma is interesting. 나 먹고 삼백강 동행 고 쫓아래. 这种多让去见子东野滚去过让那是我今天操一那天呢 거기 동에 고쳐와 나 고로 됐어 중공도 현지 진지 연된 군지시스 현라티 지번 집에 갈았더니 지금 연된 개발에 가르치리나 액티비티 가르치리나 지금 그 계획이 쳐다 아 계획 쳐라도 그냥 라나 대치 그냥 쳐지 그냥
cũng ta đứng để xem bát là để sẽ đang tra đồ để đang tra vào yêu bài So when hardship or difficulty befalls us, then there tends to be immediately resistance, you know, or a reaction of wanting to reject that, wanting to change it, or not wanting to accept it. But that doesn't change the situation. So the difficulty or the hardship is present, and so once we are already experiencing the difficulty, then there's in addition to that, having the mental strain to resist or to reject only ends up creating more suffering. It only makes the situation worse. And so really, if we just accept the situation, if we just accept the difficulty, that does, whether we accept it or not, doesn't change the reality of its presence. And it by accepting it, it definitely diminishes our own suffering. It definitely makes the stress of it and the suffering much less. It is always the case that when challenges and difficulties arise, that this is the result of a karma, that we have accumulated the karmic causes. And again, based on how we relate with the present ripening or the present situation, then we are creating further karma, either positive or negative karma, based on how we respond to the situation. To have we're always going to confront challenges in all sorts of forms, different degrees. There are countless circumstances and that can arise for us. There are limitless people who are always expressing emotions or who give rise to the emotion of anger, limitless arisings of jealousy, limitless arisings of arrogance and pride, and all of the situations that are born out of those afflictive emotions, collectively among beings. And so when we are experiencing unpleasant ripenings, to have the aspiration, may my karma be purified, and not just may my own karma be purified, but may all of the karma of the others involved likewise be purified. And so the moment that there is accepting and there's sort of the turn from the away from the self-grasping mind, the mind of rejection and not wanting this thing for oneself, the moment that one instead turns to a mind state that is altruistic and based on, and focused on the benefit of others, then the mind immediately relaxes. There is a relaxation and ease. It's interesting, the Dharma is interesting because the moment that we think, the mind I arises, the moment we think, I don't want this, even just at a very subtle level, I don't want this, there's the pushing away, then at that very moment, suffering has already started. On the other hand, when there is a focus on, instead of the self-cherishing attitude, when instead there is the attitude that is focused on cherishing others, then that becomes the foundation for all qualities. So actually what he said is the moment that there is the self-cherishing attitude, or if the self-cherishing attitude is present, that becomes the doorway or the entry to all forms of suffering. The moment there is, so the moment that we have the self-centered grasping, or the attitude of self-grasping, suffering has already started. And then the moment when we have the mind that cherishes others, then this becomes the basis or the foundation for all the arising of all qualities. Because all virtue, all positivity and virtue arises from this altruistic intent. And so then whatever activities are done from an agenda of goodwill and the mind that cherishes others become an abundance of virtue, and therefore create happiness for both oneself and others.
Any distinguishing the kitchen would you accept you allow that we accept say that don't lo ho chen bu ma ku dui kai lo chen bu
courageous
no wa tin du ta de kan di chi go san ya chang le nga su this misunderstanding chi go or courageous that not care or I not care, you know, or I die, I not care, you know, just I not worry about. The co-accept matters. Yina ji na be kap da kan ye yu be kap la dunye me wat la lo ho chi gures dunye ti wa to ma ho wat lo ho chi gures all power ma cha ate ta lo ho kore dis go ro tene ji gewa ngo ya tha tene molam devya tha pen thang la imba dunye chungna simji rank dikwa ta hen dikwa ta ji do tsola pe detail go gures pe sensitive ro ji pe o pe gewa chung gi sa no tene ne gewa ji sa so gawa che dedication chi gures o dunye chung ji nyang so ta ti ne tene dunye de sam ji ta ka tene ka ne ji che so ta ni ne de pa chang sho sam ban do o ndi ki sim chen hin de pa chang sho ta te korang go ne ta ne churu wa feeling show chi bu go gures pe sensitive ro ji pe no sort of ha ko to wa go gures
So there's something though to distinguish. So when we talk about accepting, so the ability to accept difficulty and hardship is actually incredibly courageous. But sometimes we think of courage as also being kind of this hardened sort of I don't care, I can take anything kind of attitude, you know. So the thought of being courageous has sort of like this this attitude of I don't care, I don't care, whatever can happen to me happens to me, I can take it. I don't care if I die. I'm not going to worry about it, you know, because I'm courageous. So that's actually not really true accepting. That's not actually true courage. But what this kind of courage is actually a deep sensitivity. So instead of becoming kind of hardened and callous, it's actually quite the opposite. So when one is deeply suffering, say for instance at the time of being sick, to not be overwhelmed by the suffering, to not completely fall under, you know, the power of the suffering, but with a courageous worry, but with a courageous mind, to turn the mind to altruism, to turn the mind to virtue, to turn the mind to dedication and to love and compassion and aspiration, you know, virtuous or positive or altruistic aspiration. In fact, one who is courageous becomes deeply sensitive and also deeply aware of, so for instance, if one becomes mindful of even the smallest actions of virtue, and when even those smallest actions of virtue occur, or occasions for virtue occur, there is the wherewithal to mentally dedicate that merit. And likewise, if there has been suffering, if one thinks, you know, today was difficult, today was challenging, or today I really suffered, may my own negativity or may my own negative karma and the negative karma of all beings be purified. So actually in accepting, we're not becoming hardened. There's not sort of a hardening that's happening, but there's like a deep opening and sensitivity in accepting, you know, there's a deep acceptance of experience that's actually very deeply sensitive.
Tene jowan jiten som gong kte som yore. Tene jowan jiten som gong ke ngoni chi na ngato gya pe mo sa yore ezo. In the beginning, since the beginningless, Something also saw deal, some jata don't have more jetales or give up a more sort. He gave a ticket, never taking out of some more jetales. Yin and yang, got Tadung, some Magia, not on the Disharata. So dedication, sincerely, my give us the other dedication, Maggie. Tindi, lay chicken, dedication to Maggie. Ko gewa te kiching te dewa don jo ma to be ke ko sanje compound to be juchi yo mare stini gewa da pe ke chembores malam da pe ke chembores
And really, the practice of dedication really should not be overlooked or underestimated in its power. It's such an incredibly powerful accumulation of virtue. As Lord Jigten Sungen says, it is really due to the failure to engage in consistent and authentic dedication practice that we haven't already become Buddhas, that we haven't already attained awakening. Because throughout all of our former lives, we have all accumulated immeasurable storehouses of merit. We all have accumulated tremendous virtue. And so all of that virtue, were it also connected with dedication, or had we merged all of that virtue with the practice of dedication, then by now we would already be Buddhas.
Many times, Charles. Many
Actually,
times.
many times. We would have already become Buddhas many times over.
Limitless, we already saw the entire merit of this.
But so really, it is through like really sincere and deep dedication, when we accumulate in all occasions where we engage in true and wholesome accumulations of virtue, then they become the cause for awakening or the cause for Buddhahood when met with pure dedication, or when united with pure dedication. And so for that reason, it's so important to again and again engage in the practice of dedication, to dedicate the merit and to dedicate our virtue and to make aspiration prayers. So at this point, do we have, maybe there's some questions?
Yeah, there's a few questions there. I don't know if you want to do it on your own, but I also have them written down here.
Yeah, no, that would be great if you could help us with the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So so the first question here is from Ging, and it says, what if what is taken was not a material object? So I think she's referring to the first verse that when we were discussing earlier. So what if what was taken was not a material object? So for instance, like what if someone stole your trust? I think is what she's getting to.
Garcia pena yang di kumagya bayana tani di samsam nat meaning ngopo kumagya marawa yina yang pena Garcia yichi kumagya bayana tenda dawo chana tani kande.
Re tati re tonda te karsina nga tsuki kumaya ikcha kumagya be yonari tanda wan de samutango wa 오다 강에 지하 요 말이 깨차 말이 이차 구마 잡은 날이 잘라 구마 잡은 날 잘라 그래야 다 기치
이차
what is 이차 구마 간이 잘
페나지 처럼 둑자치 요주다고 제바이나 되니 이 이치치 메투바다고 차그러와
구마 말와 그래
삼삼아 인지케라 구마 그래 It's okay. I think that we will do that too.
Kalis, Yichi.
Penate chala mena pena yena yang de rangi charangi yichi kumagya ba yena yoju chene pena dela tene tene yichi che metuba chana tene kande.
Re ta cheta therwa. 다 이치 직발했어. 텔레지 이치 제야 달라다. 고 공원으로 치주랬어. 뭐 치주리 녀배 고 참고 참샤치. 저라 참고 치기면도 되나요? 텔레지 공도 사야 같이 들라테네. 지 텔 공도 맞아와 치네. 지 공소 맞아와 있더라. 개와 톱친 보여레스. 되네데. 알아 데디케이션 치야레스.
So actually, he said it's the same, whether it's material possessions or, as Damien suggested, maybe in the case of like stealing your trust. So if, for instance, again, one can practice dedication in that situation too, and to recognize whatever the circumstance, thinking, surely this has happened because I was not honest in the past. In the past, I have somehow caused this person not to be able to trust me through deceit or dishonesty. So instead of really feeling betrayed or becoming angry, again, to have the aspiration that one's own and others' negative karma may be purified, and that to skillfully work with the situation in such a way that you are able to bring it onto the path of virtue, that you are able to transform it into a virtuous mind state in some way or another.
Dedication
So in fact, in a situation like that, if you are able to respond without becoming angry in turn, but by practicing patience, then actually due to how you have reacted in that situation, it may actually become the cause for sort of building trust between the two of you again, so that then because the other person then gains their respect through seeing the way in which you have responded to the situation, and then they are able, actually, if they have respect for you, or they're able to respect and have trust in you, then you likewise, trust builds trust. So then you're also able, more capable to trust the other person.
Okay, so Paula had go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, there was a private message here that said, what about the extreme case where a child is kidnapped? I don't know if you guys saw that one.
Yeah, that one's from Paula.
Oh, okay. All right. It came to me privately, so I didn't know it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Careless no chi yo maris. When a commander would have some when a pound of commander taki chibu, whatever, best. Setanyam de chi carse goreda, control shock chimbo down. Simply shock chimbo yuna, then not to the carse gorete. Lekate Tatachi took your marwa. 진리 인도 되는지 갈세 거래다 리가 쇼친 곳이 투야라 되네 되고 그랬어 제 해당매와 와 해당선 다 간다지 심지 용어요나 내가 동네 망치 투고 있어 인터 당연히라 이마트 데디케이션 치고서 기타도 섬어지 땅고 추셔 삼례 들이서 먹고 켈레서 다 같이 오는 중도 근데 말했어 근데 로서 찍고라
So of course, if you know, especially in a situation like this with a kidnapping, and really actually in any situation, it is it's not that we should respond with apathy or become kind of careless, or meaning like indifferent, you know, or like somehow to care less. But we really should do especially when it involves another person like this, we should do everything that we can to correct the situation, you know, taking whatever measure is necessary, doing whatever is best. But together with that, to keep sort of an even head, and that we don't become overwhelmed by our afflictive emotions, especially the emotions of powerful anger or extreme worry or anxiety, because that also interferes with our ability to actually be able to do what has to be done. So it is necessary to do what has to be done, and to also do what is necessary to cause the afflictions that arise in the circumstance to diminish, to not be overwhelmed by anger or anxiety. And then if, you know, we're able to do what has to be done, to engage in what needs to be done without much anger or worry, then we're more likely to actually, we're more productive. We handle this situation in a much more productive way. And that itself is still, you know, accepting the situation doesn't mean not necessarily taking the necessary measures to correct it. But it's very important to understand, this is the same as he said before, that the accepting really shouldn't be equated with kind of becoming indifferent or kind of hardening or caring less in some way. It's really actually, you know,
more details, more sensitive.
Yeah, it's actually a process of becoming more sensitive, and that is
also
and truly courageous.
Like also sensitive means, you know, not really worry, you know, but you understanding deeply what need to do things. So like something careless, okay, just forget, not like that.
Okay, so there's a question from Demelia, and it says, is it incorrect to think that experiencing suffering is purification? In other words, is the mind of acceptance and dedication of suffering the thing that makes the suffering a form of purification?
I'm
sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, no problem. So the question's from Demelia, and she asks, is it incorrect to think that experiencing suffering is a form of purification? In other words, is the mind of acceptance and dedication of suffering the thing that makes the suffering a form of purification?
Dungalrang nyong ne teni de dikpajang jogyore or dendanang shinsamna norwarebe kayan sena de nune dungal dangdu lenne dang ngowa cheba geo digi shorla gewa druba
that's it number sanji be chula to some tango gwa anga hi chinen ga dungi nyang go grace dungi khasi nyana aso lu for duboti grace duboti bina he dikpa chando re se ate ndiyo maris
no yongcha
okay tine de binga hi dubotang gwa lu kawachi grace lu kawachi tene pe dikpa jangachi de kawachi kures, lulu dubotang kures, or dikpa changre, somewhere what the maris.
Oh, yeah.
Zanga chula karsana lune de la pe songure, songdua, lune de pe.
I'm not sure this is really what you were getting at.
No,
but
I think next one, that's I know.
Oh, okay. But in any case, what he said was, in the case of, the Buddhist practice, actually the thought that suffering itself, like for instance, physical suffering, for instance, or actual just like inviting suffering for the sake of purification, is not something that is practiced. So for instance, like the practice of asceticism, or actually like harming the body in order to suffer so that purification, with the thought that that alone brings purification. So that is definitely contradictory to like Buddhist thought of how purification works.
Okay, sanjek songure la imba, lut songo gure, songdua lut pe.
So the Buddha actually taught it's very important to protect and nourish the body, to view the physical body as precious, especially actually in the case of, the practice of secret mantra, where the body is actually regarded as the deity. And so it's important to protect our well-being, to do what we can to protect our well-being.
However, in a tati, not to Kanye Tibi Kabla, call Letam Deva Yusigri, Tanguba Nayiri, Kanye Tiki, Koji, Kanye accept dedication chi, Knichivina, go the Pataki or is. Actually, Chumate.
However, when we are confronted with a difficulty and suffering, if again, as you mentioned, if we accept that suffering as our karma, understanding it as past accumulations of karma, and then we confront that suffering in a skillful way, such that it becomes the cause to create virtue, to accumulate virtue, through acceptance and dedication, then the negativity, the negative karma is purified.
So then, Drupan, just one step further. So if you just get harmed, let's say, right, just external harm, but you don't, sort of have that mind that you're talking about and dedication, is that harm in and of itself, can that be considered, oh, I just purified some negative karma, or does it really require, or is that just suffering, just plain suffering, not purification? Or does it require, for it to be a purification, the mind and the dedication that you're discussing? So
in a chita dungi kora nyama tiki la imba tama chatuk maris la imba.
Yeah.
In a kodipa chansigiri in a titama chatuk maris.
So
dungi nyama tiki in a dungi nyama de hakone tela tant leata dedication chia take it in go take chandu is.
So no, actually just experiencing the suffering in itself doesn't really fully purify it. Maybe to some extent, he said, just of course, through the ripening of the karma, then the karma becomes exhausted, at least to some extent. But to really purify it, then it requires more than just experiencing it. Then, to first to fully understand, to acknowledge what the suffering is, to acknowledge it as karmic ripening is very important. And then to fully accept and to bring in, for instance, aspiration or dedication.
So there's a question from Facebook from Roy, and he asks, when something is felt or seen as a wrong, what do I dedicate? If there is appreciation or at least a recognition of being an instance to enact what I have been practicing, or do I dedicate the mixed feelings, what feels afflicted or what doesn't?
어디 고랑게 초바디 롱디
So maybe I'll read the first part again because I think the first part sums it up, if I'm interpreting it correctly. So it says, when something is felt or seen as a wrong,
this individually, right?
what do I dedicate? Yeah, like a wrong, like if someone does something wrong to you,
That's wrong to you, okay?
yeah, like does something bad to you. So when something is felt or seen that way, like interpreted that way, what should be dedicated? So it's a question about like what to dedicate in the case of when a wrong is inflicted upon somebody, I think is what Roy is asking.
Give up you the concept that is wrong. You understand? Ina machipaje kita wrong ri la bro ko wrong ri samna ina thi ko wrong ri sambe ke samba te pa thor ri na tene ko de chim chang lo.
So actually he said, if there's the thought of sort of somebody else is wrong, you know, and that there's sort of that if you're thinking that person is wrong, then you can't dedicate actually, because in order for dedication to happen, then you know it's in sort of not holding that concept of the wrongs of the other person. Rebe.
Maybe tell me again one more time.
Okay. Yeah. So the question here, it says, when something is felt or seen as a wrong that is inflicted, what do I dedicate?
It's not terribly clear. Can you read the second part of it?
Yeah, sure. And I can ask for clarification if he's available, because this is from Facebook. If there is appreciation or at least a recognition of being an instance to enact what I have been practicing, or do I dedicate the mixed feelings, what feels afflicted and what doesn't?
That's all Karsana Tia was Masina Yang Terwa. Then Shimbajigla Karsanata Koji Karsate Kalafon Yaguchi Medula or some Burwa or somebody that's all Karsana Kotena Yaguchi Ujimaris. Yena rank Samkin Zintanti, Yaguchi Mendus and make Loti. Tene Mayak Takichi is Loti. Techidu, Techine, Chita Molam Karja Gorsena, Chikmoni Chane, a Koran Kirchi, May Karsana, understanding Mamba future Latin, Koji, misunderstanding Machaya, Trinity, one of them is.
So he said he kind of reiterated that if it is that we're understanding the question correctly, that mainly it is important to let go of the concept of judgment that is identifying the other as wrong or judging the other as wrong. And so, the mind that says, oh, he's really not doing something good. He's really not doing something right. He's really wrong. So to let go of that, and then so to do what is necessary to relinquish that judging mind, and to make the aspiration prayer, may understanding, like the Kongla understanding change, Marshall?
Right, both, yeah.
So may understanding come to both of us, or like may we both give rise to understanding, and may the tendency for misunderstanding be purified.
Good, thank you. I think that's it from the questions on Facebook, and I don't see any more in Zoom. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for helping with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do the dedication in the prayer book, page 24. By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drigungpa Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Thank you.
Thank you.